pleasure to meet you at last, and welcome back to the Vlog-A-Thon 4.0. So, yeah, today I feel like is going to be a pretty big surprise because if you probably don't remember, then well, September 2019 was the time that I had basically earned my full Class D license. It's still, well, that kind of level right there. But I will say for sure that regardless of what the restriction is, I'm still at least grateful to finally be able to drive all alone. I have the full privilege to do so, and I do in fact have the rights to be able to use a vehicle if I need to, regardless of what it is. But I'm gonna have to say that at this point, this whole entire year has in fact been a real big time for me. Because after all, if you don't remember back in March 2020, I basically did a milestone challenge where I intentionally broke my old land speed record, which I had done a few years ago while I was driving around a 2003 Land Rover at the time, and I had accidentally gone up to 91 miles per hour on the highway. But here in March 2020, I drove a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x4 and managed to get up to 97, 98 miles per hour. I mean, you can pretty much watch back on that milestone challenge that I did back in March 2020. That's pretty much what I just did. I broke the land speed record, and, well, to this day, I've actually been trying to get at it again to see if I can at least get up to that spot. And I can't really say that it's the easiest thing I might have ever had to pull off, but looking back at that, I can't necessarily be sure if it was the best thing I probably would have been able to do, but just had to be done. Had to get it out of my system. In all honesties, I feel like that speed limits across the country should be uplifted a bit more than what they're at now. If Sammy Hagar gave us a good point, it's the fact that, well, 55 miles per hour on the highway, which was, of course, a big standard across highway safety during the 70s and 80s, and maybe even the 90s as well. It was really common to have those kind of limits stick around, but eventually they all got changed to 70 to 75 miles per hour, depending on what part of the country you're going to. But of course, by today's standards, when a lot of new generation cars out there with their big bold looks and nicely detailed shiny paint jobs and all that, and pretty intricate designed rims, and some pretty nice colored headlamps and tail lamps, and the fact that they can actually pull off really high speeds most of the time and have a lot of good handling on them, I'd say it's probably about time to lift the mile per hour limits on highways even more than where they were. At first they were 55 way back in the day, but nowadays they're at 70 to 75, and plenty of people tend to break that limit by going 85 to 95, sometimes even well over 100. So what I can probably propose at this point is that maybe, just maybe, depending on what part of the country you're in, I'd probably at least consider seeing if we can, in fact, get speed limits to be punched up to maybe 95 or even 110 miles per hour, especially with all these new generation cars. And of course, we can't really forget that, well, most signs today have a minimum requirement, and most of them, especially here in Menominee Falls, they actually will say a minimum of 55 to 60 miles per hour. Well, the new minimum could probably be 75 miles per hour, if you will, and you could always go 95 to 110 as just an option. But whether or not you don't really feel comfortable with going those kinds of speeds on the highway or taking those kinds of turns while going at those speeds, which could possibly create a risk for rollovers or possibly getting in a risk with ice-related accidents or even rain, for that matter, then I don't really see what the point in driving is for you. But the fact is that I've had years and years of experience right now, and I was able to tackle in a lot of good skills that most drivers cannot even do on their own pretty well. If I could drive through fog, hydroplane the correct way, and handle myself just fine out there when there's a ton of ice on the road and all that good stuff, then I don't see any reason with wanting to punch up speed limits like that, even with risks like those put into play. But regardless of how fast I'll go on the highway and all that, regardless of where I'm going to go, driving vlogs are still going to be around. Of course, I've actually uploaded a lot of different driving vlogs onto the channel. Some of my most recent ones would include, well, this one vlog that I had released around mid-November, where it started around the day on Halloween 2020, when I basically had to go pick up some prescription-related drugs from a Walgreens, and that thing got stuck in the flippin' tube. And of course, we can't really forget about some of these other driving vlogs that I've done out there, usually when I'm at a restaurant or a parking lot for the most part, because I feel like that driving and holding a phone in the hand would be a potential risk. Especially when the law does state, for most places that is, that you cannot use your phone while driving. And of course, you have to remain buckled up at all times. And of course, not have anything that is drugs. Tobacco and alcohol, get out of here. Marijuana will stay and still be of good use to us in the medical department, if you will. Anyone who disagrees with that fact, then, well, how do you even sleep at night? Tobacco and alcohol, though, have nothing other than the fact that they can be potential killers if you are not careful with them. I guess an even better thing to do would be to just eliminate them at all costs. So, if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.